Wonderful people, we are live. Listen, I cannot make this up. I actually today was randomly thinking about Starbucks again. And as I was thinking about this, I promise you I cannot make this up. As I'm thinking about how they need to shift to more of a community focus, we'll get there. I get a text from a notification from NPR that brings up the idea, or not the idea, the reality that they are reversing their open bathroom policy. As I'm thinking about it, I get the notification. I kid you not, this happened this afternoon. And then taking a leadership course this evening, we actually revisited Starbucks again, and we got a new article, or another, I should say, an additional article that focuses on some of the other changes that they rolled out on Monday. Let's talk about it first. Before we do that, what I want to do is I want us to walk through the timeline. I want you to get a sense of what the third place actually is. Remember, the third place is this concept that Howard Schultz came up with, went over to Italy, came back. It's like, yo, we need to have a gathering place. It's not like home, it's not like work, it's a third place. It's a place where people can just come together, they can vibe, they can converse, they can be creative if they want, they can chill if they want, they can just be. That's what I envision. Cool. Well, the third place has eroded. It has eroded. And like I said, if you just are coming in, and I know LinkedIn has a delay here, this afternoon, randomly thinking about Starbucks again, because I think I already did one or two lives about it, and I get a notification, hits my phone that says, "Oh, they're reversing the open bathroom policy." Okay, well, that's interesting. How is that going to affect their third place concept? And then later on this evening, we had another discussion about Starbucks and where they are. I almost, as we were like comparing Starbucks versus Dunkin' Donuts, I was like, man, they if they are careful, they, Dunkin' is going to give them a run for their money. What do I mean? So let's take a look at the timeline first. This is what we're going to do. So let's start off in the 1970s to 1980s, origin of Starbucks. I got the timeline mapped out so that we can just kind of walk through this and then talk about like what do they still need to do. So in 71, Starbucks is founded. We talked about that before. Initially, they primarily sell the high quality beans and equipment, right? So they're not yet focusing on the cafe experience. It's only in the early 80s when Howard Schultz was inspired by the Italian espresso bars, and then he envisions Starbucks as a cozy gathering place, all right? So that's what I want us to kind of keep in mind here. Thinking about this cozy gathering place, it's the what would you call it? The third place, right? And so he's thinking about this place where people can spend time comfortably between work and home. Betwixt. It's in the middle. It's like, and this is the challenge. I'm gonna put a little pin here. I might be putting a lot of pins in this timeline. The challenge with this idea, do y'all see that kind of shadow thing happening? It's very interesting. Anyway, the challenge with this idea of the in between work and home is, does it fit in the American culture? I talked about this before. This kind of uh, overseas in Europe, they work like there's certain countries, right? I think, what is it? Do they get a 4 hour break, or do they work for 4 days? It's something like that. I think they only work for 4 days. Drop it in the chat and let me know. There's a different kind of approach that they have to work. Starbucks might be trying to, at least now, to combat or to compete with a culture that is not something that, the at least right now in America, it that we gel with, right? Okay, so it's this limbo place, this place of laissez-faire. Let's be real with it. How many cities, like really, fully developed, gentrified cities, has a in between work and home laissez-faire that's at Starbucks right now versus maybe a country club or like a Soho House or something like that. Like, it's different. It's different. So okay, so let's back up. Gonna start putting some pins in these timelines, and maybe it'll all come together anyway. So in the 1980s, Schultz is inspired. By the way, Schultz is the former CEO of Starbucks, and he's like, yes, we need to have this. We need to bring this from Italy. We need to do it here in the States. I think it's a genius idea. So then in the 90s, we get the rise of the third place concept. So Um, it's at like 95 or so, like, early to mid 90s. What Schultz ends up doing is he expands in the US and internationally. And I'm pretty sure internationally it takes hold. Probably still does take hold, actually. Stores feature inviting seating and cafe music and free Wi-Fi. That was another big thing too. And I don't think that people understand that in between home and work, especially in the 90s, well, not a lot of people, we're talking about in the 90s where AOL, America Online, was still the thing. Like, y'all, give me a second. I feel like there's this ghost shadow that's like coming around here. Let me see if it's gone. Okay. So we're talking about where, you know, the prime of what they would call then Al Gore's internet, it's free at a place that isn't my home or at work. It's easy. I could even argue that what created the third place was the free access to internet. All right, another pin. We're just gonna keep putting pins in. Starbucks, I hope y'all listening to me because y'all need to get it together. Grateful for the rollout, but y'all got some gathering of thyself to do. So now we have where the marketing that they've got now starts to highlight the cafe atmosphere as an essential part of the coffee experience. And once again, that third place branding is being reinforced. Great. Now, for those of you that are just coming in, what I'm sharing with you is it was almost destined for me to talk about this today. So I talked about Starbucks before, talked about the third place. I get a message as I'm thinking about Starbucks today. Not that I was going to go, but it was about the reverse of the open bathroom policy. I'm like, oh wow, I was just thinking about y'all, Starbucks. And then later on this evening, in the leadership course, we talked about Starbucks again. It's like, okay, yeah, we got to talk about this. So I'm going through this timeline, and then what I'm going to do is start putting in these pins. I thought I was going to do it at the end, but I'm actually doing it as we speak. So now we hit the early 2000s. So the third place is kind of gelled, right? It's the brand identity is kind of solid. The brand image, what the people are actually expecting and seeing and experiencing, it's there. All right. Early 2000s, Starbucks reaches a milestone in global store counts. Cool. So they're hitting the expansion benchmarks. The idea of Starbucks as a comfortable gathering spot becomes entrenched in popular culture. Yes, mwah, magnifique. I hope that, no, that's actually not Italian. Anyway, mid 2000s, rapid expansion, which this is key because we talked about this and how it started to degrade just a little bit. Because of the rapid expansion, it led to critiques that Starbucks now is oversaturating markets. They're threatening the authenticity of the third place. So that atmosphere is now starting to become not degenerate, but it's starting to devolve just a little bit. And then some customers now complain about crowded seating and reduced store ambiance, right? Cool. Probably around the time, maybe not, I'm not sure, but maybe they did have open bathroom before, and then they were like, no, you got to be a customer. It's probably when it happened. 2008, we talked about the economic recession previously. So it forces Starbucks to close hundreds of stores, and then they reassert its commitment to quality and the third place ethos to stay competitive. But the problem is, I feel like it sounds good to say third place, but what are they actually doing? Now, it's a huge company. We need to be careful, or at least empathetic to the notion that you can't make particular changes, especially at a global scale, overnight. But I would venture to say that Starbucks is probably one of the few companies that when something, as we're going to get into, happens, they find a way to make things change virtually overnight. So between 2010 and 2015, we're getting now towards a shift towards convenience. Why? Because we're not entering the digital age. This bad boy right here, like it's all mobile, right? So 2010 to 2015, Starbucks introduces new digital and convenience focused initiatives. So they include the Starbucks mobile app and the loyalty program. Now I need to put a pin there too, because loyalty program was bomb. I mean, I mentioned this previously. I remember, I think I might even still have it. My little gold Starbucks card when I hit the gold steady. Oh man, I love that. I could, you could use your phone, but then you just pull out the card like, wow, here. And the other thing too with the card, Some of y'all don't remember this. They actually told you when you remember, like since, like uh uh whatever, maybe it's like gold member, whatever, since 20, I think mine said 2010 or 2011. So this is right on target with the timeline. So they enrolled this the app, the loyalty programs, and then the store becomes the hub for mobile orders, quick pickups, which starts to slightly shift the focus from the linger friendly lounge. So it's not a big shift because, this is also still kind of picking up steam. I mean, the first what iPhone was released 2007. Blackberries existed before then, but the point is they're starting to be like, now the app is being used, and so now with these mobile orders, it's starting to they're starting to a shift is starting to happen. 2018, after a high profile incident, this is the one I was talking about here, in a Philadelphia store, Starbucks publicly commits to being more inclusive. So the company briefly enacts an open door policy for restrooms. Anyone can use them, paying customer or not. And they denote that this step is tied to discussions of what the third place truly means regarding inclusivity. Okay. Yay, Starbucks. And it also allows people, because remember, there's still the come in and be a part of the magic. So you might come in to use the bathroom, but you might come out and still linger. Um, even if you were, listen, even if you were, and this is where they're probably gonna get into this a little bit, even if you were homeless, one day we'll talk about this, but I talk about the different phases that I had in my relationship with Starbucks. And one of my phases was a homeless phase. Even when you were homeless and you go in to use, thank goodness they had it back then, the open bathroom policy, you come out and you linger. Now, it ain't crazy. It's like Starbucks was filled with homeless people, and this was at New York City at the time. But there was still this connection. Even in my homelessness, I was able to talk to people who were, I don't know if they were execs, but they sure moved and acted and talked like them and had conversations with individuals in my homelessness, sitting next to somebody who paid for coffee while I probably visited the same Starbucks long enough for them to give me free coffee. Listen, so there was that sense. It was the third place. Now, for some of us, it was the first, second, and third place. But the point is, it was still there, even when the open bathroom policy might have been abused. Let's say, all right, it's 2018. That's that high profile incident that happened, right? This was a racially charged incident. All right, 2019 to 2023. Now we're hitting pandemic and how that's impacted and is now continuing to evolve the store model. So 2020, we know COVID-19 hits. It affects how customers use Starbucks locations, and so many stores pivot toward the pickup and drive-through centric models, which limits the in-store seating and the cafe hangout experience. It's so funny. Years before, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so crowded, oh my goodness, and now it's, oh my gosh, we can't even get in. And first of all, I don't know who probably said, oh my gosh, we can't even get in, but it was like, we not even going in. Like, we just need to get our order and we need to leave. So it's crazy how things can shift, not even because of a business or a market, but because of nature. Well, I don't know if it was nature per se, but something that happens in the health realm just shifted everybody's way of being, including the third place. So we put in a little pin in there too. Where does someone go when a business was designed to be in between, betwixt home and work? When now the slogan is, y'all remember it, stay home, stay safe. Working, stay home, stay safe. So there's working from home, there's homing from home. That third place doesn't exist anymore. The third place has been relegated to the first place and the second place. What I don't like, I'm gonna say it now versus later. What even ended up happening after the pandemic, because this was before, and so before I should say, what ended up happening after, but especially before the pandemic, is Starbucks began to do these Starbucks in a Target, Starbucks in the mall, and they've had it before, But even more so now. So 2021 to 2023, they test new store formats, right? So they got pickup only, smaller footprints, redesigned layout, struggling to balance the efficiency with the third place feel. There becomes these reports of bathrooms reverting to customer only policies emerge, signaling a step away from the all inclusive stance. So companies, remember we talked about how there was regional autonomy before? And how Starbucks, that's one of their things, their strategies in making sure that, the brand was preserved and that people take ownership. Employers or partners take ownership of where they are, their locations. And so these customer only policies start to emerge, but not globally. It wasn't like hey, everybody's doing it. It's like, this region or this store does it, this store does it. But even before all of this, Starbucks stopped being the third place when they decided to take the third place and to tuck it away into other stores. So now you have a cafe experience in a big box. You now have a big box cafe because now it's no longer intimate. Now, probably for revenue, probably for reasons of where they, can rationalize, hey, listen, we're not really making much money. Let's find ways to tuck it away into different areas. Now, in a mall, okay, I get it. Here in Miami, Aventura Mall, I think it's still the third largest mall in the country. It makes sense. You gotta have a Starbucks. And even then, it's still not as intimate. I remember way back in the day, I mean, like decade plus years ago, I used to do freelance. Like I would work part time retail. Wow, it was like maybe 15 years ago. That's crazy. Work part time in retail, and then after I finished, I would go right across because it was like right now I was working at the Zara right across from this, and we're talking about like inventory hours, so like 5 a.m. type shifts. Walk right across and do freelance writing, like copywriting in the Starbucks. I don't know if y'all have ever been in a mall, not a store, but a mall nook of a Starbucks. It is so intimate. Now, I will say it is intimate, and even then, the feel of what it was then is not how it is now. I mean, I haven't sat in a mall Starbucks in a very long time, but even then, there was still that experience. It's hard to explain, y'all. As small as it was, um, that's the only exception that I would give. But all of these other Starbucks in a big box store, it's not the same. Because why? Most people are going to shop. I mean, you're going to a mall to shop too, but the mall is different, especially a big old mall like Aventura. It's just a different experience, y'all. You're not in a rush. You're not going in to get things and then coming out. You're meandering. You're exploring. You're wandering. Ooh, what is this? Ooh, what is this? Oh, there's a Starbucks. Oh, let's sit in. Or you may not sit. You may linger just a little bit. Maybe. Right now, the only time you linger is in the line to get your actual drink, and then you actually walk the mall with your star. Okay, cool. So the point though is, even then, there was still a little bit of the I'm still a part of the third place community, even though it is in a different kind of environment. It's not in its exclusive Starbucks store, but it's the brand, and I can still get that. Which, by the way, that's my other uh, phase of Starbucks. We talk about the homeless phase, but there's also the freelance phase. I actually gained business from just being in a Starbucks, working, and you just can't help it, depending on how close people are sitting to you, listening to people work out business issues, like challenges. This is especially startups. And I would just do a little ear hustling. I eavesdrop just a little bit, and then I drop my 2 cents. And then I go back to my work. And you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised some of the engagements that I've gotten just from free value. Boom. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Da, 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 da. Boom. And then somebody hears what I'm saying, and then they maybe will tap me and be like, "Oh man, you actually know what you're talking about. Can I talk to you about it?" Anyway, that is the third place. Now you can argue that's work. That was my third place. Okay, and so here we are, post pandemic. It is this pickup only, smaller, redesigned kind of space so that they can balance the third place feel with what it's like to be in this post pandemic era, so to speak. So what's happening today? footprint's small, and what has shifted? Well, since then they've had various shareholder meetings. We're talking about 2024, talking about last year. Public statements have been going out. Nickel and some of the other Nickel is now the CEO, but indicating that they're restoring the welcoming environment, the welcoming atmosphere, and that should be the priority. So um, they want to change customer expectations post pandemic because it shifted. But the pandemic, the post pandemic is not the issue. And I can't even say this is the issue. This is just the reality. The phone is the reality. The mobile device is the reality. So they want to do this so that people again can crave social interaction and comfortable spaces. Well, people already do. Let me put that clear. People already crave social interaction, but the way they do, it's not how it was for the cafe that's become the big box cafe. Let's just call it what it is. Starbucks is beginning to hollow itself out like Toys R Us has, like Blockbuster has, like those are the two that I usually mention all the time. Like they're just not getting, they're just not hitting it. Why? Well, I talked about it last week. I'll talk about it again. Why it is that they're not hitting it. So now the articles that I mentioned to you, the NPR one, they reported Starbucks official bathroom reversal. I mentioned that policy, reinstating open bathrooms for everyone, customers and non-customers alike, because that's what the open bathroom policy was. Everybody can come in. Inclusivity. Let's do this. Well, now they're emphasizing that bathrooms, yes, they are a key component of a welcoming environment and a broader mission to reclaim the third place identity, but we need to go ahead and make it I don't want to say exclusive, but that's what it seems like. So, okay. And let me double check something out as I'm talking about this. Three things. The reversal of the 2018 open door bathroom policy that was implemented by the company after two black men who had not ordered anything were arrested at a Philadelphia location while waiting for a business meeting. Remember, I told y'all that's for a lot of people, the third place is Starbucks kind of being like the what many people would use WeWork as a co-working space to have meetings. It's among the new changes. The new CEO, I told you about Brian Nickel, has made in an attempt to turn around the coffee giant's lackluster performance with sales steadily falling for months. Listen, you keep putting it in Targets and the other big box stores. It's like when you see a Subway in a Walmart. Like I expect that. I expect a Subway in a Walmart. Listen, somebody help me out here. You kind of you get it. I expect a Dunkin' Donuts, but a Dunkin' in one of the plazas, the rest plazas when you veer off and take a bathroom break for a long trip. I expect a Dunkin' in there. I don't expect a Starbucks in there. I don't know if they still exist anymore. Sbarro's, is it even around anymore? I don't even think so. I expected a Sbarro's pizza place in those areas, not a Starbucks. They're steadily declining because the brand expectation, the brand image has been declining. Your values, at least you say, is there, the identity, what you hold to be the thing. And one of the core things is your value of community. It's in your mission statement, the concept of the third place. But what's being seen on the outside, the image of that brand, it's not connecting. There's a disconnect here. So you say, yeah, it's been falling for months. And so you have these other priorities that include faster drink turnarounds and a simpler menu. Okay, well, that is not hitting on the issue. If anything, you are speeding up the issue. Well, actually, you're increasing the gap, not speeding up. but there's no way to speed up the issue. But you're speeding up the issue of the downfall. That's what you're speeding up. And then Wall Street Journal reports that the policy will be implemented later that month. Well, like this month. At more than 11,000 Starbucks stores in North America, and will require a 3-hour training session for the staff. This is to reverse the open bathroom policy. So they're making the inclusive, which is part of the third place, more exclusive. Cool, nothing's wrong with that. You know what? Be that. You were that before. But you're not touching on the right issue, and that's the problem. You're fixing symptoms. And maybe you need to do these things to stop the hemorrhaging. I get it, but it's not enough. So the other article, where Starbucks unveils this revised refill policy that's aimed at incentivizing in-store visits. They're having these handwritten drinks again, handwritten names on drinks again, instead of the printout that actually especially happens when you're doing a mobile order. And extending the refill eligibility time windows, like if you're just kind of sitting in and you want to refill, can I get a refill? You're gonna go ahead and get a refill. So maybe I might not have gotten that musical reference because I am not really that musical. But the other thing is, what they're trying to do is explicitly kind of rekindle the cafe social vibe by doing some of these incentives. But once again, giving me a refill is not the issue. It's changing my expectations that when I show up, I'm not just getting a handwritten drink. I'm not just getting the opportunity to have a refill if I stay a little bit longer. You got to give me a reason to want to show up, to be in the third place to begin with. And that's the problem. As a matter of fact, I was looking at the comments, one of these articles, and they were still mentioning that now I think the price has gone down, but for a lot of them, they're still like this. And for what you're paying for this, a handwritten note is not enough. Starbucks, what do you need to do? I'll tell you what you need to do. I talked about it last week. I'm gonna tell you it again. Not ready? One of the things, and we looked at it through the lens of the McKinsey 7S framework. One of the things that they need to do is they have to reframe what community looks like and how they can bring people in, so that I don't know, like an open mic night. Even if you redesign the layout of the store to have an area in the store. I know not all stores can do this because depending on the size of the store. So maybe you just have to have the whole store become that spot, that venue for the community night to happen. But you have to reframe how connected Starbucks is to the community, because it's not. Walk with me for a second, everyone. Starbucks was, from a branding perspective, people didn't go to Starbucks because they said, "Oh my gosh, they're so in touch with my community." No. And this is the gap. Before, Starbucks was just like this kind of hovering green and white gentrified cafe where upper middle class suburbia people can just go in, have an expensive drink, hang around, talk shop, business, leisure, all in one. It was just floating around, plopped in the community. And it doesn't necessarily, I'm not saying Starbucks hasn't done community work. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the connection to what people had. It was like an oasis, honestly, quite frankly, maybe away from those things. Away from home, away from work. But even if we wanted to do home or work like things, we could still do it at this spot. Oasis. It wasn't disconnected, but it was an oasis. You can no longer be an oasis. You now have to find a way to build some like literal bridges that allow people to see, oh wow, you are actually connected to what's happening in the immediate, we're talking about hyperlocal, y'all, immediate surrounding. At least that's one suggestion. Be more hyper focused, be more on community, like figure out what's actually happening in the area, or maybe it's the region, and build or curate. You don't even need to build it. If you are in the right community, say, oh, why don't y'all do that over here? We'll open up the coffee shop for y'all. Why? Because people have done it before. You know how many different study groups and all kinds of things have happened at Starbucks. Now is their chance to take the initiative and to be the person or the brand or the persona that opens up and initiates that happening there first. Versus people saying, oh, you know what we should do? Let's just go to that Starbucks. Versus Starbucks saying, no, no, come here. We know what's happening in your area. We want to be the place that you can do that. I'm just saying, y'all. I know it sounds so oversimplified, right? But I have a hunch. I told y'all this before. I have a hunch that a lot of the things that might seem like it's very difficult, I'm not saying that it's not. I'm absolutely certain that the amount of meetings and perspectives and projections and market foresight and all of that stuff comes into play. But you cannot shake me when I say the hunch is they're doing everything except for the thing. Oh, we're going to become a little bit more exclusive so that we don't have all of the riffraff in the store so they can feel a little bit more exclusive. Doesn't matter. I'm still showing up with this. I'm getting my order. Boom, I'm out. Won't even matter to me. I don't even need to worry about using the bathroom. Oh, we're going to, have our refills so that for those that choose to stay in so that, if they, it incentivizes them to stay a little bit longer if they wanted to refill. Actually, I'm not staying anyway, but thanks. You got to give me a reason to want to show up and stay. Before you didn't have to. Now you have to work towards it. This is what's happening. This is why Netflix won. Netflix said, you know what we need to do? We need to get what the people want and we need to get it to them because they are no longer showing up on their own volition to a big box place to shop or to rent stuff, entertainment, games, whatever that they want. Blockbuster. Oh yeah, no. They love to bump into each other on a Saturday night and, hey, John, what's going on? What you renting tonight? No, they got it wrong. The problem is, and I don't know if it's laziness, but I think it is entitlement. And this is where we talked about this, actually had this discussion this evening. Disruptors. They come in and say, you're taking it for granted that because you've been around for a long time, you don't really have to do much. So we're going to do more than you for your customers. And once you do that, or for the market, and once you do that, we remember we talked about Clayton Christensen and the definition of innovation or disruptive innovation. It's not about the thing being new. It's really boiling down to two things: the accessibility or the convenience for the customer and the cost. So a Netflix comes in and says, you know what, we're going to work just a little bit more harder in the beginning. We don't got the tech yet. So we're actually going to have mail-in DVDs, but they're not going to have to go to a store. We'll go to them. That's more work. We'll go to them, but it's more convenient for them. More convenient for the customer, a little bit more work for us in the beginning. Then the tech caught up. Now they don't have to go nowhere. They don't have to mail anything, and we don't have to mail anything either, right? The point is, Starbucks, you're still banking on the fact that people are going to come. And y'all got to do a little bit more work to make the experience more convenient and to give people, this is where you have to give them a reason to want to show up. And the reason why somebody's going to show up is because something is happening in the neighborhood. You just got to be the spot where it's happening. Right now, you are not that spot. You are not the spot that you used to be. So how does this apply to maybe personal leadership? Some of y'all ain't it. You used to be back in the day. You used to be that dude. You used to be that gal. Like, you used to be the one. Now you just got to put in a little bit more work now. I'm not saying that you need to overextend yourself, and I'm not saying that, but maybe now you've hit a plateau and it's time to grow. So maybe it is that you take a leadership course in the evening. Maybe you do things that allow you to learn different perspectives. It's not that you don't know the concepts. I can put money on the fact that almost everyone in the course that I'm in right now knows at least half of the stuff that we're talking about. But you know what's different? It's the experiences that everyone shares together, number one. But number two, also what the educators bring. And they are a wealth of knowledge. It's wild. It's the stories that we're hearing, the experiences that we're hearing that we can then apply to the stuff that we already know. That's what I think it's called constructivism. The constructivism pedagogy is about. You might have hit a plateau, so you just might need to do something. Maybe it is, something that's intellectual. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's something else. But whatever it is, You need to get out of that rut because you're expecting that what used to work is still going to work because of who you used to be, but you're not that person anymore. Or better yet, you're still that same person, but the market has changed. Starbucks, the market has changed. People aren't going to come to you. You have to go to them, and you got to find ways to do it. Bathroom policies and I think they're bringing back the condiment section as well. You know, for like sugar and milk and all. Cool, but putting that back just to give people 3 more seconds to stick around, just to, and I don't know if y'all know, like diehard Starbucks people or coffee people, they pour out half the coffee or whatever into the trash to put in the milk. Like they not they not messing around. They pouring the hot coffee into the trash just to put in the rest of the point is this. What I'm saying is this. Don't do the different things to just make micro steps to rebuilding the third place. It's nice, it's considerate, but y'all have to be more than considerate if you want to bring the third place back with a vengeance. That's my 2 cents, y'all. It really wasn't y'all. It was really for anybody that's at Starbucks that's listening. I'm just telling y'all, and it's not hard. It's not hard to do. What makes it hard is when sometimes, not all the time, when you've done something for so long, it's hard for you to reconnect to what reality is. Oh man, we talked about this evening as well, and just literally going outside and talking to people about what it is and why it is that they're not really coming anymore. Maybe they have done that. Maybe they have. Maybe they've done the primary research and the surveys and connected with real people versus creating these anonymous, I don't know, incentivized surveys for people who are like filling out these 10 questions online. I don't know. It's like when I went to Walmart. When you go to Walmart and they ask you, so hey, you get to win $1,000 if you fill out this survey. Well, first of all, I think one time they did listen to me. I kept complaining about the same thing that was happening for like weeks, and then I saw a change. I saw a change in the produce section. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe, I'm not saying it's just me. Can you imagine the egotism to think I was the one that reformed the produce section in Walmart? That. However, you make enough noise, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I don't know if Starbucks, if you're listening to the squeaky wheels, they've been squeaking. Yeah. Okay. I won't belabor the point. Starbucks, you got to get community focused. That's what the third place is about. I think you know this, you understand this. But if you want to make, and as we talk about like high impact decisions, that's the theme that we're going with for this year. That's, what we're talking about with What's Your Story. Maybe one day, maybe Brian Nichols will come on to my What's Your Story segment and we can chop it up. But the third place is all about community. The problem with Starbucks executing the third place, hear me out, is that they're still expecting people to show up because of the brand recognition. Might happen overseas, but you're facing a lot of things, especially in the US. We are not by nature. It was cool and interesting enough. Wi-Fi was a big connection, no pun intended, to us being in that third place. But the culture is not like the Italian culture. That laissez-faire, like, oh, we just need to be in the middle. We don't like being in the middle. Wasn't Italy like one of the last few places to shut down from COVID? Listen. The whole country ended up being a third place at one point. Like, listen, what I'm trying to say is this. Starbucks, you're fighting against like American culture here. So you've introduced a new idea and we took hold of it until we stopped taking hold of it. So now you have to find a way to not try to force people who used to come. Listen, we used to come to a place that we're just like, this ain't really it anymore. Got to give us a reason why. Why? Because there are more mom and pop coffee shops, bespoke cafes that are doing that are in the community and are doing maybe, I don't know if they are, but let's just say they might be doing something that connects the community together. Well, first of all, it feels like it's a part of the community. When you see a green and white, listen, oh my goodness. When you see green and white just pop up, you realize, oh, the community has changed, and they realize that there's now a market for a Starbucks in the area. It did not grow up with the community. Now, I'm not saying that, that's always the case, but listen, Starbucks ain't everywhere. So you've initially had rapid expansion, and there was an issue of just not having enough places for people to sit. Or you didn't have enough places, and so, you tried to expand and have more stores and, to kind of, but now people aren't showing up at all. Well, they are, but, I'm kind of exaggerating. They're not showing up. And you think that it was like when you guys removed the Christmas cups years ago, over 10 years ago. I remember this. I think it was in Brooklyn at the time. There was an uproar. And then y'all brought it back. Y'all listened. And that was just for the design of a cup on a holiday. You have bigger fish to fry now, or bigger coffee beans to grind. And I think that you need to really deeply think about, please. When I say y'all, I'm talking about y'all exec level, deeply think about what community looks like and feels like for the common person, not for you. All right, I'm hopping off this live. Hope this was helpful. Tag this to somebody that works at Starbucks, not a barista. The baristas probably already agree. They're probably already aware. Tag one of those change makers.